Jules was like, no. If I can't have Flo, you can take these other three bitches with you. But the dude, Jules, was like, oh, I don't know who this bitch is. Who is she? What's your name? Cindy? Cindy Birdsong? Nice to meet you. Where the hell is Flo? Well, hello there, love bugs. Hello there, Bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share to Facebook and or Twitter, subscribe, and visit uptopbeauty.com. Today's looky is a package deal. I am now, for a limited time, a limited amount, selling the JT RZA shade and the TT turban together as a package. The price I'm selling them both for is $40. Now that would exclude the shipping and the taxes, but you can't beat that deal. And if you are not already a part of this book club, please hit the Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube. And for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, look at that thing. Yes, you can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, let's continue talking about the Lost Supreme, the life of a dream girl, Florence Ballard. The Copa was home to the major superstars of the time, such as Sammy Davis Jr., Frank Sinatra, and Tony Bennett. It was also the de facto gatekeeper for all the other upper echelon nightclubs. As they say about New York itself, if you could make it at the Copa, you could make it anywhere. Playing at the Copa, which served a largely white, well-heeled audience, meshed perfectly with Gordy's crossover ambitions. Gordy had chosen exactly the right mix for the Copa and the Supreme's appearance. There was a massive success. By contrast, other Motown acts, Marvin Gaye, Smokey Robinson, and the Miracles, and the Four Tops all flopped at the Copa. Now that's news to me. I never knew that. Now maybe the writer of the other books that we read just strategically left that part out, but I never knew that. It would be tempting to say that Copa audience were partial to Motown women and less inclined to applaud Motown men. But the Temptations also did very well there. I would imagine that. All three Supremes were ecstatic about the thunderous applause they received at the Copa and subsequently at other four-star nightclubs. Although some aspects of playing the big clubs surprised Flo. At all the clubs, we were treated very well, very respectable, she said. Copacabana owner Jules Poldale, he's dead now. Fantastic guy. Anything we wanted, we got it. Now that's strange that she just laid it out like that. This tells me that Flo can be a bit oblivious to how people view her. Because according to Mary Wilson, that dude Jules loved her. And it was a time that I can recall, I don't know if they're going to say it in this book, but there was a time that I could recall in one of the books we read that when Berry Gordy tried to book the girls, less Flo at the Copacabana, Jules was like, no. If I can't have Flo, you can take these other three bitches with you. Maybe Flo didn't know this information. But the dude, Jules, was like, oh, I don't know who this bitch is. Who is she? What's your name? Cindy? Cindy Birdsong? Nice to meet you. Where the hell is Flo? One 1965 performance at the Copa became the occasion for a historic meeting between the world's two most popular singing groups, the Supremes and the Beatles. We were playing the Copa and they were playing somewhere in New York, Flo said. They had their manager call the Copa and say they wanted to meet us. And I said, oh, wow, the Beatles want to meet us? We must really be somebody. Yeah, somebody the Beatles trying to knock down. By then, the Supremes really were somebody, but the Beatles didn't know what to make of them. The difference between reality and expectation on both sides were heightened by the fact that the Beatles were under siege and not at their best, because the adulation to which they were subjected had become uncontrollable and dangerous. It had been decided to make this their last public tour. Remember when we read Ronnie Spector and the Ronettes went on tour opening for the Beatles, less Ronnie Spector, and then the girls called home to Ronnie, who was being held hostage by Phil Spector, and said, girl, you ain't missed nothing. These Beatle fans are nuts. They don't even listen to you sing. They just scream the whole time. Lodged at the Warwick in Manhattan, as were the Supremes, they were trapped in their hotel by mobs of teenage girls who had surrounded the building. They protested by staying high. Ooh, Murray Wilson did say that. But Murray Wilson ain't break this part down. Flo was surprised to see that the four superstars had little cars they would wind up and scoot across the floor. We had time to talk, but they were too busy playing with their cars. When I saw them doing that, I looked and said, they're kind of strange. That's it? That's it, Flo? They're kind of strange? That's all? Me, I would be like, these motherfuckers are lunching. The meeting was marred by an awkward silence most of the time. One of the Beatles would ask the women a question, they would answer, and the silence would descend again. Then someone would tell a joke and everyone would giggle nervously. From the Beatles' point of view, as recounted in The Beatles by Bob Spence, the Supremes looked like little porcelain figured outfitted in precious day dresses and little fur wraps. This surprised and disappointed the British singers who had expected the Supremes to be rebels as the Beatles imagined themselves to be. George Harrison later told Murray Wilson that the Beatles couldn't believe three black girls from Detroit could be so square. No, that's not what they couldn't believe. They couldn't believe that them three black girls wouldn't let them knock them down. The Beatles was trying to fool. They come to Detroit, they want to have a good time. They smoking weed. Hopefully the girls smoke weed too. And then that way, they can get them in the room and fuck. Girl, the naivete. Performing at major clubs required a special set of musicians who could easily work with and keep up with the Supremes. It also required many more costume changes than the women had been used to. In fact, the number of costume changes went from 0 to 12 or more per show. The Supremes wore white gowns, multicolored sequined dresses, pink chiffon outfits, plain pink fitted dresses beaded across the bust line, green semi-flare gowns with jackets that were beaded at the top, and of course their black outfits. They didn't stint on expenses. Our personal dresses would cost maybe $100, $200. Then we brought the perfume that cost so much an ounce. One year I spent $4,000 on clothes. Ciao. Oh, that's not much, especially if you're a millionaire, Flo said sarcastically, reflecting what Gordy was telling her about her net worth. The Supremes' financial situation worsened when the women started to let their popularity influence their spending. Sometimes the Supremes were preceded by warm-up acts, such as a chorus line or comedians, including Rodney Dangerfield and Flip Wilson. We did a nightclub engagement in Cleveland, and Flip Wilson was just starting out. He was the comedian there, Flo said. Flip had been trying for so many years because we used to see him around different places we would go. And it seemed like Flip was just trying and trying. I'll never forget that he was starting out at those little bitty clubs, and then boom, Geraldine.
Hey, honey.
Logistically, the tours were arduous. Whenever we did the Copacabana, that was for like 2 weeks, Florence said. Then we would go to Boston and play at a club there for 2 weeks. We'd go back and forth at different times. The women would rush from the Clay House in Bermuda to Bistrob's in Boston, to the Safari Room in San Jose, to the Twin Coaches in Pittsburgh, back to Detroit, and then back out again. The strain of constant work had been bearing down on them since their first hit. The Supremes' lives basically consisted of recording studio, nightclub performances, rehearsals, and bed, usually alone. In spite of all the effort the Supremes were putting into their round-the-clock schedule, Flo said, all the money we made would go to Motown, except for the allowance we were getting, $225 a week. We would get the gowns, but there was an account set up for the Supremes, and out of that account, whatever we bought, it was paid for by the Supremes account, ... Okay? That means if she wanted to pay for some ding-a-ling that night, it was coming out of the Supremes account. If she wanted to pay for a room 200, the ding-a-ling that she just paid for, it was coming out of the Supremes account. I didn't know that we should have seen the contracts. I should have known how much we were making for each engagement. The money should have been placed in our hands. The only thing they were supposed to take was their percentage, and the rest was supposedly to go to us. The clubs they performed in may have varied, but the act itself didn't. At least in its early days. Every now and then, maybe we'd take out a tune, Flo said. If the first show would go overtime, then maybe we'd have to shorten the second show and we'd just pull out a tune or something. And then sometimes we would add a new tune to the show, but basically the show stayed the same. The year 1966 saw the Supremes in some surprising situations and locations as they toured the world. It was in Puerto Rico that 23-year-old Florence met a college student named Roger Pearson, a white guy, very good looking, she said, with whom she had a relationship. I swear he used to follow me everywhere, Flo said. I'd look up and there was Roger. He was a millionaire and very nice. I think his father owned Dreyfus Funds or something like that. Roger Pearson's father, Samuel Pearson, was in fact closely connected to the Dreyfus Fund and its founder, Jack Dreyfus. Samuel Pearson, Samuel Strasburger, and Robert Tulson were originally Dreyfus's partners in the 1960s. He'd come out on the road and we'd go and have dinner and stuff like that together. Then he'd leave and go back to college. That was that. He followed us anywhere, but only in the States. He popped up in Florida one time and he popped up in Washington, D.C. I began to get used to him popping up. He would come to the room. He knew how to get through. Everybody knew him. Diane knew him. Mary knew him. He became just like a friend. When we were playing in New York, he was in this steel gray Rolls Royce. That was the first time I saw a Rolls Royce. Barry Gordy didn't even have a Rolls Royce then. He wanted to take me out that night in the Rolls Royce after the performance, and I told him I was too tired. Very good looking guy. Oh wow, I can imagine what he looks like now. Blue eyes, the sharpest physique in this world. But I don't know. The only thing I could be to him was a friend. I guess he just didn't appeal to me. You motherfucking cancers make me so goddamn sick. Let me tell you bitches always looking for love. And 9 times out of 10, the love comes in a dirty dick mother hunchy package with a bow on top of it. You supposed to marry him, girl, but she was looking for love. Oh, I want love. Shut up, Lou. I don't want to die alone. I want love. I want somebody to love me. He was going to love you, girl. Cancer bitches always looking for love. I can't stand you, ho. Today, Roger Pearson is a successful attorney who has served at first selection mayor of Greenwich, Connecticut. This mother hunchy is a mayor at Greenwich, or was, or is, whatever, in Connecticut. Oh, I can't. Oh, you can't. Oh, you cancer bitches. And ran unsuccessfully as the Democratic nominee for Congress in 1988 in Connecticut's 4th Congressional District. Pearson's recollection is that his first meeting with Flo took place while he and his brother, Michael, were vacationing in San Juan. To celebrate Roger's 20th birthday, the two were looking for entertainment at the El San Juan Hotel, discovered that the Supremes were performing there, and brought tickets to the show. Pearson recalled they were a hit. They did a very slick show. After the show, he met Flo by chance in the hotel casino. She looked at me. I looked at her. And I told her that I had enjoyed her music, he said. From then on, they got together whenever they could. After the Supremes had finished a performance at the Yale Bowl, they all piled into his 1963 Pontiac Tempest and went bowling. But Flo had to cut the evening short because she split her pants, said Pearson. You know Flo thick as a mug. Pearson said that when he and Flo went out together in New York City in the 1960s, which they often did, he still felt slightly uneasy about other people's opinion of the daring step they were taking across the race barrier. I never knew, he said, if the stairs were for her or for us or for both. Child, it's okay to have jungle fever. It's okay, Flo, for you to have jungle fever and you to go out. Now, the problem is when the haters come around. From Flo's point of view, she said, I liked guys I could have a lot of fun with. And I had a lot of fun with Roger because quite a few times we'd go out to dinner or we'd go to a discotheque and dance the monkey, the jerk, all that kind of stuff. We had a ball. Pearson said the relationship ended because you know how young people are. We drifted apart. He also noted Tommy Chapman came into her life about that time. Tommy Chapman was Barry's chauffeur, flunky, whatever you wanted to call it, said Flo.